Hey everyone, we're constantly hearing about how AI is changing everything, right? But who's actually making sure it's changing things for the better? Well, that's where AI governance comes in. You can think of it as the official rulebook for artificial intelligence. And today, we are going to break down exactly what that means.
Seriously, just think about it for a second. AI is a bit like a brand new, super powerful car. It can get us to some incredible places way faster than before. But imagine that car on a road with no traffic lights, no speed limits, no rules whatsoever. It would be total chaos. AI is exactly the same. It needs a solid framework to make sure it's operating safely and, actually helping people. So the big question is, who's in charge of writing that rulebook?
So, before we get into the who and the how, we've got to start with the most important question of all. Why? Why do we even need to put guardrails around AI in the first place?
Okay, so let's define our terms. AI governance is really the whole shebang. It's the high-level oversight from leadership, the day-to-day processes, the standards you follow, and all the safeguards you put in place. But the key here is that this isn't about slowing AI down. It's actually about enabling its safe and ethical use so we can all trust it.
And believe me, this is incredibly important because the risks are very, very real. AI learns from data that humans create, which means it can pick up all of our worst biases. That could lead to real-world discrimination in hiring or who gets a loan. Without rules, you get the black box problem, where nobody can explain why an AI made a certain decision. This creates a huge gap between what the tech is doing and what compliance teams can actually sign off on. And of course, all of this can have a massive negative impact on the workforce, and in the end cause huge financial, legal, and reputational damage to a company.
All right, so if those are the stakes, who's actually responsible for managing all this? That brings us to the people. Because great AI governance isn't really a technology problem. It's a people problem. It's about getting a whole team of different folks to work together.
You can really break down the key players into four main groups. First, you've got leadership, the one setting the big picture vision. Then you have the developmental and ops teams. They're the ones actually building and maintaining the AI. Then, of course, you have the users, the employees and customers using the thing every day. And finally, and this is so critical, you have the governance and oversight teams making sure everything is secure, legal, and ethical. Now, if we zoom in a little on the internal team, you can see it starts right at the top. The board and senior leaders have to make sure any AI project actually aligns with the company's main goals. But it's just as important for the employees on the ground who need proper training to work with these new tools. And none of it works without the IT and technical teams building a secure foundation for it all.
But no company exists in a bubble, right? The effects of AI ripple outwards. And this is where external stakeholders become just as critical. You've got customers whose data you have to protect. You have regulators who are setting the laws you have to follow. And then you have society as a whole, which needs to be confident that this powerful technology is being used responsibly.
So, how in the world do you get all these different people on the same page? You start with something called an AI charter. This is basically the constitution for your project. It lays everything out in black and white. What the project is, what its goals are, who's involved, and how you'll measure success. This is the blueprint that keeps a project from flying off the rails.
Okay, so we've got the right people in the room, and we've got a plan. Now what? Well, now they need a playbook to follow. This is where we get into the nuts and bolts of the frameworks and standards that guide everything.
And here's the good news. This isn't the Wild West anymore. As you can see, major international groups are already building out these rulebooks. You've got ISO creating management systems, the IEEE focusing on how to build human values into AI, and NIST providing amazing frameworks for managing risk. The main takeaway here is that you don't have to start from zero. There are really smart people who have already created guides you can use.
And this is a perfect example of how one of these frameworks actually gets applied. See, governance isn't just a one-time thing. It touches every single stage of an AI project's life. From the very beginning, during the design phase, all the way through development, deployment, and then continuous monitoring to make sure it's still doing what it's supposed to do, safely and ethically.
All right, let's talk about actually making AI work. What is this technology really good at solving, and maybe more importantly, why do so many AI projects end up failing?
This is such a great way to look at it. On the left, you've got the amazing things AI can do, like spotting spam, predicting prices, or detecting fraud. But now, look at the right side. The reasons AI projects fail, they're almost never about the technology. It's about humans misunderstanding the business problem, feeding the AI bad data, or just trying to use AI for something it's not designed to do. It's a human challenge, not a tech one.
And that brings us to the final, and let's be honest, probably the most important question. After all of this planning, all the frameworks, all the meetings, does it actually pay off? Let's talk about the business case and the return on investment.
Look, before a single line of code gets written, you absolutely have to have a strong business case. It's non-negotiable. You have to clearly define the problem you're trying to solve, how AI is going to solve it, and what the return on that investment will be. This isn't just about getting a budget, it's about making sure the entire project is grounded in real, measurable value from day one.
So, does all this effort actually work? Well, a Google survey mentioned in our source material found that a whopping 74% of organizations saw a return on investment from their Jet AI solutions. 74%! That's not just a theory, that's a real, tangible impact on the bottom line.
And let's put an even finer point on it. This quote says it all. For the companies that are actually using Gen AI in production, a massive 86% of them saw their annual revenue grow by 6% or more. So the lesson is clear. When you do this right with proper governance, AI isn't just a cost, it's a serious value driver. So that brings us to our final thought for today. The frameworks, the playbooks, the business models, they all exist. We literally have the blueprint for how to govern AI responsibly and effectively. The real question for all of us, then, isn't about figuring out what the rules are. It's whether we have the discipline and the commitment as people and as organizations to actually follow them.